Having a snapshot of a disk is great. Use that snapshot to provision multiple virtual machines is even better. But what happens when there is a vulnerability? Or there is a feature request coming from your dev teams that more software needs to be added to the virtual machine. And it's even worse when you need to do all of this process manually and there is no automation around it, meaning that you need to create a virtual machine, SSH into that instance, execute your scripts or commands, create a snapshot, and then do a rolling update to the virtual machines that are serving your clients. At that point, you might be feel overwhelmed and that your job is very tedious. There are multiple ways to resolve this issue, but I want to show you one approach that I like, which is using a HashiCorp project or a HashiCorp software called Packer, which allows you to create virtual machine snapshot from different sources. In my case, I'm gonna be using an ISO source. All right, so let's get to it. Great. So now I have Visual Studio Code open and I'm gonna show you two different approaches. One approach is Proxmox Ubuntu, which is just a very basic Ubuntu image. In my case, I'm just going to be adding a admin user, and after that, I'm going to be installing two software, which is Git and Ansible, and I'm going to be passing my public key to the instance to be able to execute SSH commands to the virtual machines after the fact, right? In this case, I'm going to be using two parts. One is the cloud init execution, and the other one is going to be a shell script. The cloud init is just some instructions that you can pass in to Linux to be able to execute when it starts, right? For that, we have this boot command. Remember, since this is coming from an ISO, when you have a installation of a new distribution of Linux, you need to go to the wizard, and that wizard can be executing some keyword command, right? So in my case, I'm using this representation of the key that are going to be passing virtually to Proxmox, and I'm configuring the cloud init server that is going to fit into the instance and grab this cloud init configuration and execute it. Meanwhile, the virtual machine is running, right? Very simple. I'm just configuring the keyboard layout, the time zone, network interfaces. In my case, I'm using DHCP. This is the host name of the Ubuntu server, my username or my admin's username, this password. This is very interesting. You can do or use OpenSSL pass WD-6 to create a password encryption, and that's going to be used in this section. After that, I'm going to enable SSH to be able to SSH into all of the instances using the snapshot, and I'm installing a KMU server because in my ecosystem, which is Proxmox, after you enable the KMU agent in the hardware section of the virtual machine, you also need to require the installation of the KMU agent. So I want to have that out of the box. And here, coming back to the scripts, as I mentioned, I'm just copying my public key to the authorized keys inside the instance, installing Git and Ansible, and doing some cleanup. For some of the distribution of Ubuntu, if you don't clean the machine ID, that will cause a little bit of troubles with the DHCP provider, meaning like it's going to always assign the same IP, and we don't want that, right? We want all of the virtual machines have their own IP address. And that is going to be all for the Proxmox ISO Ubuntu, and then we have the Proxmox ISO Ubuntu Web. Similar to the other one, I'm just using here Proxmox as a plugin, and I'm extending the plugin use of Packer to use Ansible because a part of executing the cloud init, the script, I also want to execute my Ansible playbook. Similarly of what I had in the other one, this is like the provided execution, copying that public key, copying my provision script, and then executed it. After that happens, I want to execute my Ansible main YAML, which is the playbook to run. And you can find that here under the roles. And I'm just including two different roles, one common, one Apache. In the Apache section, the only thing that I'm doing is installing all of this software, which is also PHP, and grabbing Composer and assign that to the user local bin to have the Composer binary available to run in my server. Okie doke, so let's just execute that in here, which is my Jenkins. I paused the recording, and now I'm just waiting to have my pipeline finished. And this is the part where it executes the bash script that I had. Again, in the bash script, I was just making some instructions, which was the update of the operation system. And after that, it will try to install Git and Ansible. The last part of this execution, you can see Ansible got installed, and now it's converting the virtual machine as a template. So I can go now to Proxmox and see Ubuntu server base is now baked and created. I'll do the same for the other, which is the Ubuntu web base. Let's go that. Kick off the pipeline. It's now creating the ephemeral virtual machine. You can see that coming in, and it has the web tag, and going to pause the recording to the finish of the end of this pipeline execution. Right, so after a couple of minutes, my pipeline got built successfully. This is the last execution. I'm gonna go to the console output. As I mentioned, first it's going to try to execute the bash script. So I'm gonna go all the way down. Here, it starts using the Ansible plugin to execute the Ansible playbook in the remote host. This is very interesting because I noticed that if you don't have this extra instruction in your extra bars or the extra arguments of the Ansible playbook command, it will cause some issues telling you that the Ansible playbook is not found. I think it relates to some of the dependency software that it uses to push that tarball to the remote host. And once you have this extra bar argument, it's going to be able to do that without any issues. And now you can see here the execution of such Ansible playbook. And this iteration took 6 minutes and 33 seconds. It's not the Ansible playbook that took that much. It's just the whole process to provision the virtual machine, and it converts that virtual machine into a template. So you now can go to your Proxmox server and see the Ubuntu web server base template, and you're good to go. You can use that now to execute the other pipeline. In my case, to provision other resources. This is going to be a virtual machine that is going to leverage that base image and present my my PHP application. So here it's cloning that that virtual machine template, and it will create a new one, new virtual machine, Let's wait a little bit until the virtual machine is provisioned. In this case, it's a very simple pipeline. My pipeline is creating a virtual machine. Once it's created, it's going to create an SSH connection to such virtual machine, and it's going to push all my source code to that web application server, and it's just going to restore the Apache server just to represent the state of that instance. And takes a little bit, but just wait here. This is the IP address for my web server. Go to that, and now my application is running. This was a very simple example of the capabilities that you can use with Packer. Probably this could be also extended to different cloud providers like AWS or Azure, and then you can have your own pipelines to bake those images. But I hope you liked this video, and see you soon.